Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry. Today is the second part in my Rotten Tomatoes Got It Wrong series for the 2010s. This time around, we're talking about all of the under and overappreciated films over on Rotten Tomatoes from the year 2011. So basically, every week I will have a guest here on the channel and we will be going over the fresh films that we think maybe should have been rotten and those rotten films that we think should have been given a fresh rating from every single year of the past decade. And today, joining me to give his opinion on the over and underrated films of 2011, I have Jared Buckendahl. So without further ado, let's let Jared go ahead and kick us off.
Larry, thank you so much for inviting me over to your channel. This is very much appreciated. I don't know how to thank you enough. Anyways, though, we're getting into the Rotten Tomatoes Got It Wrong with some overrated movies, underrated movies, and the year that you, Larry, bestowed upon me is 2011. So I went through, I was scrolling through, narrowed it down to, a few that were overrated, a few that were underrated. I found a lot more that were underrated, but I got a few, in there as well. So first up for overrated is Rango, this animated movie with the bug-eyed, chameleon, voiced by Johnny Depp, cool, whatever. A lot of people like this movie. I guess they're saying that it has a, fantastic animation style and whatnot. But I remember watching this movie, and it just felt dreary and dark, and I didn't see the point of it. I mean, when I looked up this Rotten Tomato score, I was blown away by why this was ranked so high or rated so high, because this movie, to be honest, this movie is exactly what Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is, but animated. My understanding is that it's the exact same movie. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch it and whatnot, but that movie is highly, highly overrated. It should not be at an 88 right now. Now that we have an overrated one, let's go into the underrated one. And 2011, they had a great combination of fantastic ideas here. Cowboys and aliens. I mean, think about it. You got cowboys, awesome. Aliens, awesome. Put them together, even more awesome. You have Jon Favreau in there. You have Daniel Craig. You have Harrison Ford. You have it based on this fantastic graphic novel, of my understanding. And the thing is, the lore, the setup, everything they have in this movie is awesome. I mean, you have this sci-fi futuristic going on top of this old west with six shooters and whatnot, and I love that combination. I love the mixture of everything. I know that maybe some of the plot points and the portrayals of some of the characters don't entirely add up. They're not the greatest, but sitting at a 45%. I don't think it should be at a 45%. I'm not saying that this needs to be certified fresh, like 100%. It definitely needs to be higher than a 45% because of the cool ideas and setup and just the lore that they had set up in this movie. Because, again, I think I watched this one maybe a couple years later after 2011, and I very much wanted a sequel, and then I found out that everything just kind of crapped the bed for this movie. Now we're going back over to the overrated. Scrolling through Rotten Tomatoes 2011, Jake Gyllenhaal movie pops up, Source Code. I remember watching this movie, was watching it by myself, watching it before bed one night, and this movie felt like a complete waste of time for myself. I remember getting to the very end, and it just, whatever. And the thing is, it's cool because it kind of has this video game-esque, and I know that there's a video game, I can't think of the name of it, but there's a new one that just came out called Wildlands, where basically you live for 20 minutes, you die, repeat, and that's kind of how this movie is, where he's going through, he's trying to figure out this mystery-esque type thing, and he only has a certain amount of time before the code breaks and whatnot. The ending, complete fail. The weird setup, how they have, I'm not spoiling anything, but the way that they have everything set up and what is revealed to you, complete just pretentious. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And with it being at, 92%, okay, I will say this has some cool ideas. It has great performances. I like the feel of it. 92%, absolutely not. I would knock this down to maybe a 70, 75 at the best. Again, this movie is just, personally, I just thought it was a train wreck. It was weird. It just didn't work, and it might have been based on a novel or something prior. I'm not entirely sure, but this movie, just watching it from a regular nobody watching it at that time, I did not like this movie one bit. Jumping back over to the underrated, we have Wolverine, Hugh Jackman in Real Steel. My God, I love this movie so much. I mean, it's sitting at a 60%, so I will say that that's pretty good. I want to see this more at like a 70, 75 again. It's not a fantastic, great, critically acclaimed film, but it has a great story in there. It's cool because it's boxing, but futuristic with these giant robots. Boom, right there. Awesome idea. Then it has this father-son trying to reconnect storyline of this really just kind of awful, greedy, self-centered man, and then he finds out that he kind of, I care about my son and I care about this and that. Love that journey, love that story, but the robot battling and everything with all of the different robots, the different styles of battling, the way they look, I have no idea why they have not made a Real Steel 2, because this movie was awesome. Critically, it's looking at what, at 60%. Box office wise, I didn't look up those numbers, but this movie definitely deserves more than it's getting, because I mean, I love everything in it. The sci-fi elements, the father-son angle, everything in this movie needs to be more acclaimed. I know that there's people out there that absolutely love Real Steel. Comment down below because it is awesome. And saving the best for last, we have one more underrated movie, and I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. It is ranking on Rotten Tomatoes right now with a 22%. This is a crime against humanity. And this movie is Sucker Punch. From Zack Snyder, whatever, cool big name, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point. This movie is, like I said, awesome because it has all of these different visuals of them going into these dreams of like this dragon fire, them fighting these things, going to this one land where it's like Nazi and zombies, and then this futuristic one with robots and this other stuff, and it's all a dream because she's trying to make up this stuff because what reality is horrible, so she's trying to mask that to make it feel a lot better. Plus, there's this message of female empowerment, friendship, them going off and doing their own thing, sticking it against the man, and whatnot. I love that angle of it. And they're obviously in a horrible situation, so they're trying to make the best of a worse situation of something very bad. And another just cherry on top is the soundtrack of this movie. It opens up with this really dark, Sweet Dreams kind of remake cover that is just awesome, sets the mood for the movie, and then there's a few other techno stuff in there and whatnot. But one of the songs, have it on my iPod. Yes, I still listen to an iPod. Listen to it at the gym almost all the time. It's I Want It All mashed up with We Will Rock You. Seriously, one of the best soundtracks in movies, and I have no idea why people are overlooking this. I understand that it's maybe the message and whatnot isn't that great, but think about it. We have Emily Browning, we have Oscar Isaac, we have John Hamm, we have Vanessa Hudgens. That's a pretty solid cast in this apparently no-name movie because no one's seen this movie. Go out, watch Sucker Punch because it is a crime that this movie only has a 22%. This movie has so many different elements in it that it definitely should not be at a 22. I'm not saying, again, that this should be 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, certified fresh, but it definitely needs to be higher than a 22%. You know what? I'll be happy with a 50. I'll compromise here because this movie is awesome. Anyways, though, those are my 5 overrated, underrated, Rotten Tomatoes. You totally got it wrong, critics. You don't know what you're talking about. Movies from 2011. Thank you, Larry. I'm sure that this video is going to go right back to you. Comment down below if you agree, disagree with my selections of movies and my opinions on these movies. I'm sure Larry's going to list all of my links in this description down below. Anyways, though, Larry, appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me over to your channel. Back to you, buddy.
Thank you so much for participating in this series. Really appreciate your continued support and participation here on the channel, Jared. Everyone, if you're not already, make sure that you head over to Jared Buckendahl here on YouTube, as well as Instagram and Twitter. Give him a subscribe, give him those likes, those follows. I assure you won't be disappointed. So now, for the 5 films I think the tomato meter missed the mark on, we're going to go ahead and kick things off with the only film I think was scored too low from 2011, and that is The Green Hornet. The Green Hornet, yes, that one, starring Seth Rogen, only has a 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I don't think this is a great movie per se, but I had a lot of fun watching this movie between Kato and Seth Rogen's in here. All of our cast, I thought, had a lot of fun and really delivered on what we wanted. The storyline was generic but serviceable, and the action, the jokes, they all worked for me. Now, in saying that, I have not really seen much of the original show this was based off of, but for a modern day film adaptation, I think this could have gone a whole lot worse. It was sleek, it was well made, and I think it should have been rated fresh. And that's going to take me on over to my first overrated film, and that's Tower Heist, which had a 67% rating. So, this was a movie that assembled an all star cast of comedians in 2011, helmed by Ben Stiller in the lead. And it just didn't work for me. I didn't think this film was funny. I didn't think the plot was very intriguing. It looked good enough, but if you would ask me right now which one I'd rather put on and watch, The Green Hornet wins over Tower Heist any day. When I was looking up films to include on my rankings here, I was shocked actually Tower Heist had a 67% fresh rating. What? Yeah, this film was just like a nothing burger to me. And it definitely would have been rotten in my book. Also, coming in with a score of 67% from 2011 was Paranormal Activity 3. Now, to be fair, I'm not a fan of any of the franchise. I'm just going to say that right now. Even the first one that everyone was like so scared of, keep the lights on, best horror movie ever. I was sitting there like, where? I didn't really care for the second one, and then the third one, we took a slightly different plot, and the still same result for me. It took a more Blair Witch approach in this third one, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I haven't liked any of the Blair Witch movies either. So this found footage mess is not my jam. It's not my horror wheelhouse, and I just can't imagine why this one is any better than the rest. And it's definitely a rotten ghost to me. And now we get into the Oscar picks, starting off with my favorite director of all time, Steven Spielberg, and Warhorse, which currently has a 75% on the tomato meter. Now, I don't dislike Warhorse per se, I just don't think about Warhorse either. I'm a little bit shocked that it received the nomination for Best Picture that it received. It is very beautiful. It is beautifully shot. But a movie about a horse in general, I need to be like hooked in emotionally. And I just really wasn't. This was much more war than it was horse. And I'm a lot less intrigued by that. Plus, it wasn't particularly a great war movie. It's certainly not the best Steven Spielberg war movie. And it's certainly low, low, low on my list when it comes to Spielberg films. I wouldn't go all the way rotten, but this would be like right at that 60 percentile. It's much too long, pretty bland, and the beautiful cinematography can't make up for the lack of any kind of emotional ties. And then my final overscored film of 2011 is Rango. That's right, the best animated feature winner of 2011. What? I don't know what everybody else saw in Rango because people seem to love it. It has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just don't get it. It was not funny to me. The story was bland. The movie itself was bland. The animation looked good in the kind of realism type of deal where the textures were really good, but they were in a desert. I mean, the palette of the film also didn't really work. So the story, blah. The jokes, non existent. And the color palette was just so bland. It didn't feel like it was aimed at children, and it felt far too blah to be aimed at adults. So I don't really know who was eating this up, who was loving this movie. And then it went on to win for Best Animated Feature with an 88%. Meanwhile, I'm sitting over here like, should be rotten, but okay. So those are my picks for the films that were scored too high or too low on Rotten Tomatoes for 2011, as well as Jared Buckendahl and his picks for the over and underrated films of 2011. So once again, if you're not already, make sure that you head on over to Jared's channel and subscribe for all of his wonderful movie reviews, as well as head to his Instagram and his Twitter and give him a follow there as well. All of those links will be in the description down below. And while you're here, if you liked this video, hit like down below and subscribe to the channel. Not only so you are always up to date on the latest videos in this series, but so that you are always up to date on all of my latest content. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.